Okay, today we're going to go over 7.3 angle relationships. For learning target, I can find the measures of various angles, vertical, adjacent, linear pair, parallel lines, cut by a transversal, interior angles of triangle, complementary, supplementary, etc. by knowing the relationship of their measures. So there's a lot of vocabulary that goes in today's lesson. We're just going to use that vocabulary to find missing angles, measures of different angles. So the first vocabulary we're going to go over is vertical angles. These are angles across from each other where two lines intersect. Okay, and vertical angles are always congruent. If you remember from 7.1, congruent means equal or the same. Okay, so two vertical angles are always congruent or the same. So angle 1 over here, its vertical angle, the angle across from it would be angle 4. So we can say that angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. We could also say that angle 3 and angle 2 are vertical angles, so they are also congruent. So angle 3 is congruent to angle 2. All right, now we have a linear pair. These are adjacent angles or right next to each other whose outside rays form a whole line together. Okay, a fact about a linear pair is it's always 180 degrees. Okay, so what does this look like? This looks like these two angles over here. If you look, angle 1 and angle 3 together, they are 180 degrees. They're a straight line. So we can say that in a linear pair, angle 1 plus angle 3 is going to be 180 degrees. Okay, that's a linear pair. Then we have alternate interior angles. These are angles between the parallel lines on opposite sides of the traversal. So a couple just vocabulary things. These two lines right here, those are my parallel lines. They're the same lines, just one scooted down from the other, right? And this line that cuts them, that's the transversal. Okay, so alternate interior angles says that they're inside of the parallel lines and they're on opposite sides of the transversal. Okay, well, if I'm looking at angle 4 here, I have to figure out what its alternate interior angle is. I can't choose it to be angle 3, because if I choose angle 3, that makes this a linear pair, which is not what I'm looking for. So it can't be 3, it has to be 6, because that's the only one that's inside the parallel lines and on the opposite side of that transversal. So angle 4 and 6 are alternate interior angles, and alternate interior angles are always congruent. So I can say angle 4 is congruent to angle 6. Then I could also say that angle 5 and 3 are alternate interior angles. So those two are also congruent. Okay. And then we also have alternate exterior angles. These are angles outside of the parallel lines on opposite sides of the transversal. Okay, so that would look like angle 2 and angle 7 here. Okay, they're both outside of those parallel lines and they're on opposite sides of the transversal. Alternate exterior angles are also always congruent. So I can say angle 2 is congruent with angle 7. Likewise, I can come up here and I can say angle 1 and angle 8 are also alternate exterior angles. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 8. Okay, then we have corresponding angles. These are angles on the same side of the transversal where one is interior and one is exterior. Okay, so I'm actually going to erase all these colors up here and we're going to start fresh. So corresponding angles, one's got to be interior and one's got to be exterior. So I can pick something from the top up here and then I have to pick something inside. And they also have to be on the same side of the transversal. So if I pick number 2, well, I can't pick 4 because that would make this a linear pair. So I can't pick 4, that means I have to pick 5. So 2 and 5 would be corresponding angles. And corresponding angles are always congruent, okay? So I can say angle 2 is congruent to angle 5. Okay, likewise, I can pick 1 and 6 to be corresponding angles. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 6. I could also choose 4 and 8. So angle 4 would be congruent to angle 8. But I could also choose 3 and 7. So angle 3 is congruent to angle 7. So if you look up here at our corresponding angles, it's like if I cut this right down the middle here, I'd have two of the exact same things. Because these are 2 and 5 are the same angles, 1 and 6 are the same angles, 4 and 8 are the same, and 3 and 7 are the same. So 2 corresponds to 5. It's in the same spot. It's just two different areas and where they're located. Okay, so that's corresponding angles. And then we have consecutive interior angles or same side interior angles. These are angles that are both between the parallel lines and on the same side of the transversal. Okay, so that would be like these two here, angle 3 and angle 6. Those would be consecutive interior angles. So I can write that here, angle 3 and angle 6, but also it could be like angle 4 and angle 5 over here. They're inside and on the same side of the transversal. So angle 4 and 5. The reason I didn't say they're congruent is because consecutive interior angles aren't always congruent, but they are always supplementary. So let's talk about supplementary for a moment. We've got what are called supplementary angles and complementary angles. Okay, so complementary angles, those are always going to add up to 90 degrees. Whereas supplementary angles, those are always going to add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so what this means by saying that consecutive interior angles add up to 180 degrees, that's saying that angle 3 and angle 6 add up to 180, and angle 4 and angle 5 add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so that's what those mean. Complementary and supplementary angles. A good way to remember this is a complementary angle. It's going to look like a right angle, okay? Whereas a supplementary angle is going to look just like a straight line. So a linear pair is a supplementary angles. They add up to 180 degrees, okay? Now we're going to go over some examples. It says, given that line M is parallel to line N, find the value of X. Okay, well, the first thing I notice is this angle and this angle are corresponding angles. And if I look back on my vocabulary sheet, I know corresponding angles are congruent, which means I can say 60 is equal to X, and there's my answer. Okay, well, this next one is a bit different. Okay, but I do know that X corresponds to this right here. So I can say that this is X. And now that these two are right next to each other like this, I can say, hey, I know these two are a linear pair, and a linear pair is supplementary or adds up to 180. So I can say x plus 25 is equal to 180. And then I can just subtract my 25 from both sides and get x is equal to 155. Okay, on C, I noticed that these two angles right here are alternate exterior angles, right? They're both on the outside of those parallel lines and on opposite sides of the transversal. So those are alternate exterior angles, which means that they are congruent or equal to one another. So I can say 7x minus 9 is equal to 4x minus 3. Then I can subtract my 4x from both sides. which is going to give me 3x minus 9 is equal to -3. Then I can add 9 to both sides. And that'll give me 3x is equal to 6. And then if I divide 3 by both sides, or divide both sides by 3, I get x is equal to 2. See, so what I'm doing here is I'm using my vocabulary to set up an equation, and then I just solve that equation like we have been doing in the past. Okay, now on D, I'm looking at these two right here. I'm trying to figure out what vocabulary matches to those. That would be my consecutive interior angles, okay? The last one on that first page. And what I know about consecutive interior angles is they add up to 180 degrees. So I can say 5x minus 23 plus 7x minus 1 is equal to 180. Now I can combine my like terms. I get 12x minus 24 is 180. If I add 24 to both sides, I get 12x is equal to 204. And then if I divide both sides by 12, I get x is equal to 17. Okay? Looking at E, well, I notice that this right here is a straight line, and these two angles are a linear pair, which means these angles are supplementary, which means they add up to 180 degrees. So it's going to solve exactly like this last one here. We're just going to add these two together, and we're going to solve for n. Okay, so we're going to actually skip that one, because we know we have an example of how to do that one. We're going to move on to F. What do I notice about these two angles? Well, they're across from one each other where two lines intersect. So these are what are called vertical angles. Okay, and what vertical angle means is they are congruent. So I can say 9n is equal to 8n plus 8. Then if I subtract my 8n to both sides, I end up with n is equal to 8. And just like that, I found n. Okay. For G, this is something we haven't seen before, but we have talked about it. If I'm looking at my angles here, I notice that the two of them together equal a right angle, which is what that little symbol means. It means 90 degrees or a right angle. So I know that these two angles are complementary, okay? And what complementary means is they add up to 90 degrees. So in other words, 2c minus 4 plus 5c plus 3 is equal to 90 degrees. I'm going to combine like terms. 2c plus 5c is 7c. -4 plus 3 is -1. That still equals 90. So I add 1 to both sides, I get 7c is equal to 91. And if I divide both sides by 7, I get c is equal to 13. Okay. Now on W, I notice that I've got a straight line right here, which makes me think of supplementary. Supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees. So if I take all of my angles, 8w plus 6, I'm going to move it over here for the sake of room, plus my 90 degrees right here, plus my 44 degrees. I know that's going to equal 180. So these are supplementary. All of them together form a straight line. So now I'll combine my like terms. I just have 8W and then 6 plus 90 plus 44. That's going to be 140. It's equal to 180 still. And then if I subtract 140 from both sides, I end up with 8W is equal to 40. And if I divide by 8 on both sides, W is equal to 5. Okay, not too bad once we set up those equations. Okay, now let's talk about interior and exterior triangle angle sums, okay? A fact, there are the three angles inside of a triangle add up to 180 degrees, okay? So that means angle 1 plus angle 2 plus angle 3 in this example on the left, all of those added together is going to give me 180 degrees. Now another fact, an exterior angle of a triangle is equal to the sum of the two non-adjacent interior angles. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that the exterior angle, okay, so that would be angle 4 here. That angle is equal to the sum of the two non-adjacent interior angles. Okay, so two angles that are inside my triangle that are not adjacent. That would be angle 1 and angle 2, because they are not adjacent to this angle 4. So in other words, I have angle 4 is equal to angle 1 plus angle 2. Okay, so now we're going to use those two facts to solve a couple more problems. Okay, the measures of the angles of the triangle below are shown. Solve for x. Well, I know that all three of these angles are going to add up to 180 degrees, right? So if I take my 180 degrees and I subtract my 41, and then I subtract my 83, the only thing that's going to be left is my missing value of x. So 180 minus 41 minus 83, that is 56, and that is what x is. Okay, now in this next one, it's a little harder to solve, not much, but we can't just simply subtract them, okay, because we've got different equations going on here. But I know that all the angles still add up to 180 degrees. So I can still say 2x plus 3 plus 5x plus 17 plus my 90 degrees. It's still going to give me 180, right? So now combining like terms, 2x plus 5x gives me 7x. And then 3 plus 17 plus 90, that's going to give me 110. Okay. Now I'm going to subtract 110 from both sides, which is going to give me 7x equals 70. And then if I divide both sides by 7, I get x is equal to 10. Okay. In example K, it says we have a triangle UVW. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my triangle. So here we go. There we go. Got a triangle. I'm going to go UVW. Okay. Now it says the segment UW is extended through W to a point X. Okay, so that means this line right here is extended. Oops, that didn't work out. This is extended to a point X. Okay, now it says the measure of WUV. So WUV, this angle right here, is 3x minus 4. So I'm going to label this one 3x minus 4. Okay, now it says the measure of VWX. So VWX, this outside one, that is 6x plus 6. 6x plus 6. Okay, and then the measure of UVW, so UVW, this one right here, that is x plus 20. So I'll label that one x plus 20. Okay, now I'm just solving for x. So I know that this outside angle is equal to the sum of these two inside angles. So I can come over here and I can say that x plus 20, oops, x plus 20 plus my 3x minus 4 is equal to 6x plus 6. Now, if I combine like terms on the left side, I'm going to get x plus 3x, which is going to give me 4x, and 20 minus 4 gives me 16. Still equals 6x plus 6. And then if I subtract my 4 from both sides here, my 4x, excuse me, I'm going to end up with 16 is equal to 2x plus 6. And I'll subtract 6 from both sides, which is going to give me 10 is equal to 2x. And then if I divide both sides by 2, I get 5 is equal to x. And that's my answer. Okay, now looking at the last one here. So I've got another triangle. It's called EFG. So I'll draw one more triangle here. Okay. And I'll label it EFG. And then again, this line is extended. Whoops, this line is extended to a point H. Okay. And then the measure of EFG is 2x plus 1. So 2x plus 1 goes right here. Then it says FGH is 6x plus 2. So this is 6x plus 2. And then GEF is x plus 19. Now it says to find the measure of GEF. So I'm trying to find what this angle right here is. Okay. So first I have to solve for x. I'm going to do that exactly how I did before. I'm going to say, okay, well, I've got 2x plus 1. I'm going to add that to x plus 19. And that's going to equal my 6x plus 2. I combine like terms. I'm going to get 3x plus 20 is equal to 6x plus 2. And then I will subtract my 3x from both sides. I'll get 20 is equal to 3x plus 2. And then I'll subtract 2 from both sides. I'll get 18 is equal to 3x. Then if I divide both sides by 3, I get 6 is equal to x. However, that's not my answer because it is asking me to find GEF, the measure of GEF. We said that that was this angle right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what I know x to be and plug it in right over here. So I've got x plus 19, or in other words, 6 plus 19 is equal to 25. And 25 is my answer. Okay, that's the end of the notes for today. Got Delta Math Online. Thanks for watching.